Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Going to be doing a bit of a different video, nothing to do with stocks or trading or technical analysis. We're going to be talking about lucid dreaming. Got into a random conversation with Ched's Trading, and if you don't know Ched, you should follow him on Twitter. Good source as well. But he was talking about where I said in the video about waking up every 2 hours, and I said it makes lucid dreaming. And then we got into this rabbit hole where everybody started coming out of the woodwork wanting to know more about lucid dreaming or being lucid dreamers themselves. So if there's four things that I can talk about, it's technical analysis, lucid dreaming, road tripping on a budget around the country, and farming. So let's talk about some lucid dreaming, and I'll give you a little bit of a crash course in terms of resources that you can use and books that have changed my life and experiences that I've had. So just to set the stage on lucid dreaming, a few years ago, let's see, at this point it's like 6 years ago, I had just graduated college. I was a few years into trading. I was traveling around the country by myself for 7 months, going to national parks. I went to dozens of them, and I used that time while I was trading stocks and living off my profit. I was trading way less while I was out in the bush, definitely doing a lot of backcountry camping. But I used that to read every single day about lucid dreaming because lucid dreaming is a skill that you can learn. It's can absolutely be taught. They did a study where they took a bunch of people into a classroom who had never had a lucid dream before, and by the end of it, I forget the percentage, but it was something astounding where it was very convincing that you can learn with different exercises. So there's plenty of exercises that you do to foster lucid dreaming. One of them is just reality checks throughout the day, saying, how do I know I'm not dreaming right now? One thing you do is you look at your hands, and if you can, look at your hands and it's not blurry and you can see your individual fingers, and you can remember where you came from. What was I doing the past few hours to get to this point? That's a reality check that you do a few times a day. And if you do that a couple times a day consistently, you'll start to do that in your dream, and it will become a part of your routine and just your being. And you will recognize, and that's a way that I have caught lucid dreaming. I've also looked at my hands in lucid dream and realized that I was dreaming. But what it does, I mean, superficially, everybody thinks, yeah, it's cool. You can control your dreams and do whatever you want. It's great. You can fly and stuff. But in reality, it goes so much deeper than that in terms of what the potential of lucid dreaming beholds. And if there's one book that I can recommend, it's Lucid Dreaming Gateway to the Inner Self, where this book changed my life. And this guy goes so deep into lucid dreaming and exploring the ego. And if you like psychology and just it's hard to put into words how deep this book goes, and I definitely suggest doing it. If you're looking for more of a beginner 101 with different exercises for lucid dreaming, this guy is the OG of Western lucid dreaming. There's been, monks that have been doing it for centuries, and that's what their lives are based around. But Stephen LaBerge brought it to the Western science, and it's really only been accepted by Western science at this point for about 50 years. And before that, it was just people that said they had lucid dreams. It was attributed that they didn't know what they were talking about, and lucid dreams were just, random firing of neuron memories. But the proof that Stephen LaBerge did is he was put into a sleep, chamber where they observed him. And when he was lucid, he signaled by in his dream looking up, down, left, and right, and they could track his eyes doing that while he was unconscious. So they could see on the machine that he was not conscious, but he was communicating with them. So that's when it started to be accepted, and it's so little is understood about it right now in science. It's just this universe that a lot of people think it's, alternate realities or whatever. I don't care too much in terms of what it is. All I know is I want to explore it more. And the experiences that I've had, I had a conversation with a friend, just an example where I talked to him about a lucid dream that I had where I was laying on the beach at night and looking up and watching a space launch, a space shuttle launch. And he was like, man, I've had that same exact experience. I did that in real life years ago. And in that moment, I realized I have never had this experience, but I know exactly what he experienced because lucid dreaming, when you are conscious in your dream state, it is just as vivid, if not more vivid, than in your waking state. So a game that I play with myself walking around all the time is, how do I know I'm not dreaming? How do I know these people are real? And what makes them more real than the people that are in my dreams? And it's really hard to come up with an answer for that. So I'm fascinated with lucid dreaming. On my road trip, like, along with reading about it every day, I was keeping a dream journal. Dream journal is where you write down all the details that you can remember. Getting better at recollection will definitely help you lucid dream. And you write down dream signs. So if there's something that stands out every time, say, a dead relative, and you keep seeing them, if you keep focusing on that and saying, okay, if ever I see Jim who's dead, I know I'm dreaming. And if you burn that into your brain over and over again, when you see him dreaming, it will trigger consciousness. Other things that you can do, let's see. When you're sleeping, you break up your sleep cycle. This is another thing I did on my road trip. So I would sleep, I would wake up early in the morning, and then I'd do something for an hour. I'd either read or, I'd get up and walk around, and then you go back to sleep. And that breaks up your sleep cycle to a point where you're a lot more likely to be lucid. Another thing you can do is when you're lying in bed, before you're laying to bed on your back, just say, I will lucid dream tonight. That positive affirmation has an impact. And again, they've done studies where the percentage of lucid dreams will go up with people just do that every night and put it in their, their perspective as they're heading into sleep. So another resource here, Waking Life. I watched this in high school, and again, another one that just blows your mind. But this is a really interesting movie, tons of, deep intellectual concepts in it, and all about the lucid state. I recently watched it, and the last time that I watched it, you'll see it, there's an animation that's like weird and wavy, and it's going to be unlike anything you've ever seen. But I had a dream, and the background of my dream looked like the background of this movie, and it triggered the night that I watched this movie, and it triggered a lucid dream by recognizing that similarity. So I highly suggest digging into this world and exploring it, and at least reading about it, watching some YouTube videos about it, because it changed my life. The euphoria that I feel when I wake up from a lucid dream, it's right here, and it's unlike anything I've ever felt before. It's in my chest, and it carries with me the entire next day, where it's like this. Again, it's unlike anything I've ever felt before in terms of how I feel the next day. Other experiences I've had, I've died in lucid dreams, and I feel like that has absolutely prepared me for death. I feel like I have a closer perspective of what it's like to die, going through it in my dream and experiencing, tingling sensation over my entire body, like when your arm falls asleep, and I could feel, I'm not going to get too in depth, but it was very realistic what was going on. And again, you don't wake up in fear and in a panic, because you're dreaming and you know that you will wake up. I've had experiences where I've been just like the movie Inception, where you're stuck in a dream and a dream within a dream. I've had that where I'll be asleep in my bed and I'll wake up from that bed in the same spot that I'm sleeping, and I'll wake up into another dream, and I'll walk up into the kitchen and tell my roommate, or, just, man, I just had the craziest lucid dream. And then a sheep walks by the kitchen, and I said, oh, I'm still dreaming. So it got to the point there where it happened like 4 times, and it was like, all right, I'm ready to be done with this. And eventually just had to jump from a flight of stairs head first and wake myself up. But again, the freedom that you feel, and the fact that you can do anything that you want in your dreams. One of the most empowering things when I was first getting into lucid dreaming, I was just walking down a hallway, and I recognized that I was lucid, and instantly I just turned around and walked in the opposite direction to have complete control over the dream and decide, where I was going to go and what I was going to do with it. And talking to people is always fascinating to see, what their answers are. And it's just, that's a passion of mine. And honestly, I haven't been doing it a lot lately, because once I started TheChartGuys, it's been about 3 years now. It's very hard to shut down the numbers and the charts and all of that. So I'm having a much harder time lucid dreaming than I would be, hiking and backcountry camping and going 2 weeks at a time without interacting with a human. That's the scenario you want to be, exploring your psyche in and your lucid dreaming states. But again, I suggest everybody check it out. At least get these books, or this book specifically was the one that did it for me. But very fascinating stuff, and I can certainly vouch for its legitimacy. Some of these stories you hear people talk about, you say, that can't be, but it can be. Dreams of soaring through the night sky in the stars, and then diving into the ocean and swimming with whales, and just anything that you can possibly imagine, you have the power to do. And it really just opens up your creativity in terms of what do you want to do now. So check it out. Feel free to ask any questions, start discussion. I'm sure a bunch of you have done it. Tips and everything. Let's use the YouTube comments. See you soon.